All right, so what first brought you to Pilates?
Well, my daughter-in-law insisted that I try this out because she knew that it would be good for me, and I was pretty skeptical at first. Um, but I have to admit she was right.
And how long have you been practicing Pilates?
I don't know for sure, but I think it's a little over 2 years now.
And what benefits have you seen from a regular Pilates practice?
Um, I've seen a lot of benefits. I have a long history of back problems, over 25 years of fairly serious back problems that have put me in the hospital 3 times. And since I've been doing Pilates, an awful lot of Pilates work is strengthening your core muscles, but also helping your flexibility and to somewhat lesser extent balance. But the flexibility exercises in particular have been really, really good for my condition.
And as a man, were you skeptical about Pilates?
I was extraordinarily skeptical about Pilates. And in fact, that skepticism extended for the first few visits. I have a long history of exercising. I've never been an athlete, but I've exercised with weightlifting and with running and bicycling over the years. And so some of the core approaches in Pilates were foreign to me. And at first, the very slow start was a little frustrating to me, and I really wasn't at all sure it was working. But after 4 or 5 weeks of doing Pilates, I could tell that I was really benefiting from the flexibility exercises.
So you talked a little bit about your low back, but how in particular has Pilates helped with your low back issues?
What I have is I have 3 ruptured vertebrae at the very base of my spine, and so if I extended myself, if I worked too hard or stretched too far, I would have severe pain. And the net result of that is I had gone for about a 20-year period where I'd quit exercising entirely. I'd really not pushed myself at all, and it was all based on fear of pain. And with Pilates, strengthening mostly the abdominal muscles and loosening up my leg and back muscles, I haven't had any back twinges or back spasms in the 2 years that I've been doing Pilates. And when I say I haven't had any, I mean that absolutely. I haven't had a single time where I've had to stop myself because of sudden pain. I haven't had a single time where I've had to go to the doctor's office to get pain medicine. I haven't been in the hospital one time in the last 2 years. And so it has been very helpful in that respect.
What has surprised you about Pilates?
A couple of things have surprised me about Pilates. First, it is really a program where, unlike my other exercise programs that I've engaged in, where you'll do high volumes of exercise on one muscle group at a time, where you might do 3 sets of 10 reps on something, or maybe 3 or 4 sets of 8 reps on some exercise. In Pilates, you've always had me do 4 or 5 different exercises for a muscle group, and we might only do 3 or 4 repetitions of that exercise. And so I'm not working a muscle group to exhaustion. I'm working a muscle group until I actually engage the muscle and start stretching it out and building it up a little bit, and then we move to something else. And so with Pilates, I never have that experience of my arms are dead or my legs are dead or anything like that. Instead, what I have is at the end of a Pilates session, I feel that pretty much my whole body, but especially my core area, has been engaged. And so it is really a very different experience than the other exercise programs that I've engaged in over the years.
Why Northwoods Pilates?
Well, because you're my daughter-in-law. The Northwoods Pilates has a lot of benefits as far as I'm concerned. First, it's close. It's you've been very dependable at providing service. The other benefit that I've had here that is probably true of most Pilates situations, but at least has been true with Northwoods Pilates, is that it is the first time in my exercise experience where I've had the equivalent of a personal trainer. And in the early months, an awful lot of that personal attention was you telling me, okay, that's enough, let's stop there. It was you holding me back from maybe pushing myself too far where I would probably re-injure my back and go through the kind of start and stop routine that I had done since I'd hurt my back 25 years ago. But the other thing that's happened is now that I'm further along in the Pilates experience, I have the experience of you telling me, no, Mike, let's do 3 more reps. And so this personal attention that I'm getting in the Pilates experience, which may not be unique to Northwoods Pilates, but is definitely here, has been both it's a guiding hand that helps me do better with what I'm doing.
So you ride motorcycle, and I know that you have 2 pretty active grandchildren. How has Pilates helped you with those activities?
Let's address the grandchildren thing first. Before I started doing Pilates, my back was immobile to a huge extent. If I dropped something on the floor, I would walk to a certain spot in my house and pick up a little device to help me pick things up off the floor, because I couldn't, if I dropped a sock on the floor, I couldn't bend over and pick that sock up. Now I can, and in fact, it's gotten to the point where I can do that without even thinking about it. Same thing's true with grandchildren. When my grandson, who is 4.5 years old now, when he was an infant, if he was laying on the floor, I really couldn't bend over and pick him up very easily. What I would do is I'd go over, I'd get down on my hands and knees, I'd pick him up, and then I'd get him close to me, and then I would kind of raise up with the help of a chair of an arm or something like that to get myself up. And now when my younger granddaughter is laying on the floor, I can just reach over and pick her up. I find myself just getting on the floor and playing with my grandchildren, which I did not do very much of, even with my own children. After I hurt my back, I couldn't do that kind of thing. And so I'm much more active with my grandchildren than I have been with any other kids in the last 25 years. The motorcycling is kind of funny, because motorcycling long distances, in other words, out in the country on the highway, was never a problem for my back. There's something about the micro movements that you make keeping the motorcycle upright that actually were not much of a challenge for my back. Where I've noticed a difference in motorcycling is when I'm going to mount the motor, get my legs swung over the saddle and get on the motorcycle and just getting started. That's much easier now than it used to be.
What is your favorite piece of Pilates equipment?
It has to be, I think, the reformer. It's a very well-designed piece of equipment.
So what do you love about Pilates?
I love what it's given me. We have basically 2 sessions a week, and I try to do some of the stretches at home, and it has allowed me to do more things around the house in what I would call the activities of daily living without pain and without fear of pain. And the truth is, fear of pain maybe is a bigger problem than the pain itself, because it limits your actions. You don't want to test things that might cause that kind of pain. It allows me not just to play with the kids, but to do things around the house, and to just go out and have some fun. A week ago, I went on a very long drive halfway across the country. Now, that wasn't a comfortable trip for me, but the truth is, 2 years ago, I don't think I could have made that trip by myself.
Anything else that you want to add?
I think that for me, when I began Pilates, I did it as a favor to you as my daughter-in-law. The truth is, it's been very beneficial to me. And I think that people who are skeptical of Pilates, because it is a new and different kind of exercise, should at least give it a try.